My guest on today's show is Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. Dr. Natasha holds a degree in medicine and postgraduate degrees in neurology and human nutrition, but she's best known for being the creator of the GAPS concept, which stands for Gut and Psychology Syndrome and Gut and Physiology Syndrome. Since the publication of her revolutionary first book in 2004, Gut and Psychology Syndrome, the GAPS concept has become a global phenomenon. She's helped treat and heal thousands of patients with chronic degenerative diseases and has trained thousands of GAP certified health practitioners around the world to do the same. For many, including me, her work has been life-changing. It was a total honor and privilege to have her on the show. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Couldn't be happier to be talking to you. So I was hoping we could start. Let's imagine this is a pretty general audience. So a lot of people will have never heard of many of the ideas I hope we can cover on today's show. So I was hoping you could just start with like an introduction to what is GAPS. I said the acronym, but how do you explain GAPS to a novice?
Well, human body is a microbial community. There are more microbes in you than there are human cells. People need to understand it. We are a microbial community. There are fungi in us, viruses, bacteria, protozoa, archaea, all kinds of little creatures. And there is nothing microbe-free in your body. You have a microbial community in your blood, in your joints, in your muscles, in your liver, in your heart, in your lungs, in your brain, everywhere there are microbes. But the biggest community lives in the digestive system. It's like a big headquarters, big ministry, where the majority of those microbes are sitting and they're controlling the rest of the microbial community in your body. They're connected to the microbes in all of your organs, in all of your systems, everywhere. The reason why the majority of them are in the digestive system, because the most powerful influence on any microbial community in nature is food. Food. You change the food supply to a microbial community in any environment, in a laboratory or outside, everything changes within a couple of hours because microbes proliferate very fast. They produce lots of babies, trillions of babies within an hour. And so certain microbes disappear, other microbes appear, and the whole microbial community changes because you've changed the food supply. Because the human body is a microbial community, that means that food is the most powerful influence on our health, on health and disease. There is nothing coming even close to the effect of food on your health than anything else, in the world. So the problem is that in the modern world, modern human beings, particularly in the Western world, more advanced, more industrially developed world, this microbial community in people has been under attack for a long time. Any microbial community works on harmony, on balance. You see, all kinds of creatures need to be present in there. All of them should be there because they all fulfill certain functions and they all control each other. They don't allow each other to get out of control and start causing trouble. Problem is, we created an environment where we are exposed to antibiotics on a daily basis. If you buy your food in a supermarket, you are eating antibiotics for breakfast, lunch, and dinner today. Because everything in a supermarket comes from industrial agriculture. Industrial agriculture uses hundreds of poisonous chemicals, most of which are antibiotics in their nature. They kill microbes. No antibiotic in the world can kill all microbes. It only can kill a certain group of them.
Yeah.
And that group was part of a very balanced, huge microbial community. And once you kill them off, the balance is gone. The harmony is gone. So microbes which used to be perfectly beneficial as part of that balanced community suddenly get out of control, proliferate out of control, and become pathogenic, become a problem. Every microbe in the world can cause disease. There are no such things as good microbes or bad microbes. They can all cause disease. As long as they are within a balanced microbial community, they all control each other and they become beneficial for us. On top of that, people have antibiotics from their parents. Children acquire their flora, their bodily flora from mother and father. The
Mm.
baby, during the 9 months of development within the mother's womb, starts acquiring the flora during that period of time.
Mm.
So if the mother has abnormal gut flora herself, abnormal bodily microbiome herself, that's what she will pass to her baby. Abnormal, unbalanced microbial community. The father shares his microbial community with the mother on a regular basis through sexual contact, and that also goes to the baby, particularly during birth.
Mm-hmm.
When the baby goes through the birth canal, it swallows mouthfuls of microbes in the birth canal,
Yeah.
and that flora comes from both the mother and the father in the child. We have generations of people now in whom the gut flora is getting worse and worse. If,
Yeah.
for example, grandparents got perfectly good gut flora from their parents because that was in pre-antibiotic era, they were born with a good, solid, healthy gut flora. But then they lived in the modern world, they had a few antibiotics before they had their children. Those antibiotics damaged their bodily microbiome to a certain degree, so they passed slightly damaged flora to their children.
Right.
And then their children grew up in a modern world full of antibiotics. Vaccinations damage our microbiome as well. Junk food, contraceptive pill has a devastating effect on microbial
Mm-hmm.
flora in the body. So the generation of their children, by the time they got old enough to start their own family, their gut flora was seriously damaged,
Right.
far more damaged than in their parents. And they pass it to their children. And this sort of situation is getting worse and worse, deeper and deeper with every generation.
Mm.
This is an epidemic of gaps. That's what I call gaps. Gut
Mm-hmm.
and psychology syndrome, gut and physiology syndrome. Both abbreviate to the same gaps in the English language, which means we have a person with abnormal microbial community in the body. When your flora in the gut, in particular, becomes abnormal, they convert food that you eat into thousands of poisonous chemicals.
Hmm.
At the same time, they damage the integrity of the gut wall, making it porous and leaky. Holes develop in the gut wall.
Right.
So all these poisons absorb. There's a river of toxicity flowing from the gut into the blood, into the lymph, and then the blood distributes it all over the body.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever these chemicals get you, wherever these toxins get you, they cause disease. If they get into the brain of a small child, a baby or a toddler, they will clog the brain with toxicity and interfere in its normal development.
Mm-hmm.
We have an epidemic of learning disabilities in children. It's getting worse every year. Last week, I've been speaking to India. We had a conference in India. This epidemic has just arrived to India, and Indians are in absolute shock of these high statistics of autism
Mm.
amongst their children, which is just coming like an avalanche.
With modernization, is that as India modernizes and is that yeah.
That's
Okay.
right. It's all the Western, technologies that are coming in, the chemicals, the agriculture, mostly. That's the most
Yeah.
important part of it, agriculture and food industry, full of chemicals which are damaging the microbiome in our bodies. So what I've explained to them that almost 100% from my point of view, and from point of view of other holistic doctors, almost 100% of autistic children in our modern world were born with a perfectly normal brain.
Mm.
These were perfectly normal babies, but they acquired abnormal flora from their parents, and that flora poisoned the child. The river of toxicity coming from the gut got into the brain of the child and interfered in the proper development of the brain, because the brain develops in children very rapidly, particularly in the first few years of life.
Yeah.
They acquire new skills, they learn to walk, to talk, to find the use of the language, social skills, how to
Yeah.
behave themselves, all of those things. But if the brain is clogged with toxicity, it cannot function appropriately, it cannot learn appropriately. It learns in
Right.
an abnormal way, and the child can become either autistic or hyperactive or develop attention deficit, dyslexia, dyspraxia, oppositional defiant disorder, uh, anxiety, depression, anything,
Mm-hmm.
anything at all. And a proportion of these children, particularly toxic ones, develop epilepsy as
Yeah.
well, because the brain develops epilepsy as a safety valve as a cleansing procedure to remove toxicity out. It sends one electric discharge through and cleanses itself. And that manifests itself as an epileptic seizure. The last thing these children need is more toxins added to the brain in the form of anti-epileptic medication. They need the diet they need. So what we do with GAPS people, not only with children, but adults as well, we normalize, harmonize that microbial community in the gut. Bring harmony and balance back to the microbial community. And that can be done only through food, the right kind of food, because we eat anyway. You might as well eat correctly.
Right. That's right. That's right.
Use it as a means, because you have to eat something anyway,
That's right.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So through food, through GAPS diet, we bring that balance and harmony back to the microbial community, and we heal and seal the gut wall. We close all those holes in the gut wall. So that level of toxicity stops absorbing gradually. It turns into a trickle, turns into a little stream, and then eventually it disappears. And as the toxins stop coming in, the body cleanses itself. The brain cleanses itself, the heart, the lungs, the joints, the muscles. Wherever this toxic river was getting to, it was causing disease. So people can get rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, allergies, asthma, eczema, psoriasis, chronic cystitis, nephropathy, all chronic diseases begin in the gut.
Yeah, I mean, in your books, there's kind of the list of symptoms, and there's a couple pages where you're just leafing through and like, okay, I think she might be listing everything that people are. And so, the Hippocrates, right, said that all diseases begin in the gut. And I feel like it's such ancient wisdom that we have, but in today's world, and the way you describe it makes total sense. But in today's world, it's almost the opposite of what we're prescribed or told. So you said the typical response might be antibiotics, where you're saying it's the opposite of what you want to do. You actually want to be giving it the good stuff. So I'm wondering for you, you came up in a fairly traditional path. I think you were a neurosurgeon before this part of your life took on. So I'm wondering, like, at what point was there a moment where kind of you had a switch flip where you're like, oh, maybe we've been looking at this thing all wrong? Or was it an intuition? Where did it begin for you?
I come from a traditional society.
Yeah.
You see, I grew up with many of the foods that are in the GAPS diet. So they were normal. And nothing in our lives happens by chance. Nothing is an accident. That's, my whole life's experience has taught me that fact. And many people would agree. The longer we live, the more we realize that nothing's an accident. Everything is meant to happen. When I was 18 months old, I was a baby. I had the food poisoning, which I didn't recover from. My parents lived in a city, and I was just losing weight. I was dying. Losing weight. I couldn't even stand up, apparently, my mother said. So she, in desperation, wrote a letter to my grandparents, who lived in a small village in the middle of Russia, because that's where I come from. I come from the Soviet Union. And in that village, everybody produced their own food, because there was no food sold anywhere. There was a small shop in the village where people sold spades and buckets and salt, underpants and things like that. But there was no food. People produced their own food. Everybody had a cow. Everybody had geese, ducks, bees, gardens, everything. So my grandmother got on the train. She got to the city. She took me away to that village. And my grandparents didn't have a chance to see me for another 18 months or so. And when they came to the village to pick me up finally, I was this healthy, bouncy toddler. My grandmother healed me. And she healed me with the GAPS diet. I have realized that when I healed my own child with the same diet. And when I looked at it in detail, I realized, my goodness, this is what my grandmother healed me with. So this is traditional knowledge. People knew this for God knows how long. Women were the healers in these villages. My grandmother was a healer. She knew herbs. She knew how to use food. I remember people would come, a lot of mothers would bring their children to her, and they'll sit quietly in the corner and talk about the child's health, and then they will pray together. They used prayer a lot, and they used the diet, and they used the herbs. So my grandmother was one of those wise ladies in the village. So that's where it all started. When I was working as a neurologist and a neurosurgeon, I've noticed that 100% of neurological patients with multiple sclerosis, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, Guillain-Barré, and neuropathies, and various other neurological illnesses, they all had abnormal digestive function.
Hmm.
They all suffered from digestive problems.
Hmm.
And somehow, in the mainstream medicine, that wasn't put together. You just invite a gastroenterologist, he prescribes something, and that's it.
Right, right.
You compartmentalize the human body, but the human body cannot be divided. It's a one entity.
Hmm.
And not only when my first child was diagnosed with autism, and I found the diet, and I've worked it out, and he recovered, only then realization came to me that these neurological diseases stemmed from the gut
Hmm.
in these
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, it is what I mean. The more I've read your work, and that's led me into other work, it is like our guts are this weird, wonderful, wild world of different critters and things and life forms that are uh, blooming and breeding all within us. I would love for you, like, there's a couple, not a couple, a whole bunch of stats or facts that are littered throughout your book about like things like 90% of the cells in our body come from our guts. So I'm wondering, like, why are our guts so important? What makes them so special? If someone's thinking like, this sounds like a little bit wild that you could cure all these things just from the gut. I'm wondering, from someone who knows so much about the gut, what's your case for the gut? What makes it so special?
Because of the fact that human body is a microbial community.
Yeah.
And because food is the most important thing for any microbial community.
Hmm.
Where food is, that's where the microbes are. That is why majority of this microbial community is in our gut, because that's where we put our food, right? That's where the
Yeah.
food goes.
Right.
That's why majority of them are there. And that is the headquarters of our microbial community. They communicate with the rest of the microbes everywhere else in your body, and they regulate them, and they feed them, and they instruct them, and send them information. And we now have facts from the biophysics that the communication is instant. It's on some kind of quantum level. They
Oh.
communicate. It doesn't have to flow through blood or whatever. They communicate
Huh.
in a quantum way. It's amazing, absolutely an amazing, amazing world. Every one of us, like a whole universe,
Wow.
many planets, all inhabited, and it's extremely complex. And every microbial community is extremely complex. We can study the microbial community in the soil.
Yeah.
Healthy soil on our planet is a microbial community. The basis of any microbial community are fungi. They grow 100 meters long, myceli, like a roadwork, like a world wide web,
Hmm.
internet, all connected. And then along this network, like along a network of roads and highways and little streets and little lanes, bacteria, viruses, and other smaller creatures create their little hamlets, villages, towns, cities.
Hmm.
And the fungal network brings them water, brings them food, takes the wastes away, neutralizes toxins. So your microbial community in your gut is like a sophisticated city with roads and lanes and streets and gas supply,
Hmm.
electricity supply, sewage taken away, water supply, communications, buses going on, trams, and whatever else.
Yeah.
If you throw an antibiotic in there or some agricultural chemical, you've eaten something with agricultural chemicals in it,
Hmm.
you have destroyed, it's like an atomic bomb you throw into that
Yeah.
city. All those communications are broken. The city doesn't work anymore.
Hmm.
The body starts repairing that as fast as it can, but then dinner comes, and then another breakfast comes, and so it goes. And that's what people are doing.
Hmm.
And when this microbial community becomes abnormal, unhealthy, it poisons you. It literally poisons you.
Yeah.
The lists of diseases that I have in my books, and I have the gut and physiology syndrome. That's my second GAPS book. It's the blue book. It came out in 2020.
This one here. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Yes, it's a bit thicker than the first one.
Yeah.
Yes. That one focuses on all sorts of physical diseases. The yellow one is about the brain,
Yeah.
the blue one about the rest of the body. And many of those diseases I have never worked with,
Hmm.
but I have letters from people and I have communication from people, and my practitioners work with people all over the world. So I get information all the time that people recover from all kinds of illnesses using the GAPS nutritional protocol. Illnesses that I've never worked with, that I haven't got experience with. And that's how that list was compiled.
Yeah, that's wild.
For a while, I thought cancer wouldn't be included. But then one of my practitioners healed her husband from the worst form of melanoma. He was given a few weeks to live, and he lived another 13 years or 14 years afterwards.
Wow.
I
Wow.
healed him with the GAPS diet. So all diseases begin in the gut.
Yeah.
Every one of them, every chronic disease begins in the gut, and that's where the treatment has to begin. And because your body is a microbial community, I'll repeat it a third time, food is the most powerful medicine for you. Food
Yeah.
that you eat every day will bring you either disease or it'll bring you good health.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've heard you speak about food as information in a way, right? Like it's almost a information for your body to read and digest and make sense of in its own way, right? So food is
Absolutely.
a
Food
yeah,
is information. Food is a
yeah.
powerful information, and information always has a frequency. Information is energy, basically, and it has a
Mm,
certain frequency. What kind of information are you buying in a supermarket? Just think for a moment.
yeah.
All the food in the supermarket, all the products in the supermarket come from industrial agriculture.
Mm,
The information that is coded in that food is greed, suffering, pain, grief,
yeah.
all of that from suffering plants, suffering soil, suffering animals, suffering birds. How is that information going to bring you good health? We eat information
Mm,
with our meals. We have wonderful farmers in every country, real organic regenerative farmers who love their soil, love their animals, love their birds, love their gardens, their bees, whatever they do. And they're always happy for you to visit their farm because they've got nothing to hide. They're perfectly happy for people to come and visit. So what I recommend to people in cities, go to your local farmers market. Find these farmers, talk to them, ask, can I visit your farm? And on the weekend, just put your whole family in the car and go and have a lovely day
right.
looking at the farm.
Yeah.
And find these farms and start buying food directly from them. Because you will be buying the energy of love. The information that you will be putting into your body will be information of love. And that's
Mm.
the only frequency that brings you good health.
That's a such a fascinating idea to think about food as something much more than just something you're putting in your mouth to alleviate some desire or there's so much more to it than just the material aspects of how we think about it. I want to go back to something you had said earlier on about the soil and how that's a metaphor, maybe a mirror even for our gut. I know there's a quote in your book from Roosevelt around a nation that destroys its soil, destroys itself. I live in the US. I've heard some people report that like usable topsoil's set to run out in the next 60 years. And the things we're growing in the soil are often now, deficient in many minerals and nutrients that used to be in it. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the relationship between the soil we're growing our food in and what that means for our gut. And maybe there's some lessons. I know you're like a regenerative farmer yourself, right? So maybe there's some lessons you've learned from your own. I think I hear the rooster in the background
Mhm.
every now and again. So maybe there's some lessons you've learned as well from your own endeavors.
The topsoil is the most important part of nature. That's where all life begins and all life ends. Who created topsoil on our planet? Herbivorous animals.
Mm,
Huge herds of buffalo, zebra, antelope, deer, wildebeest, all sorts of grazing herds. Because the way they interact with pasture, they create compost, basically.
yep,
We do a lot of composting on my farm. I am a regenerative farmer because working with foods for so many years, you realize that you can't trust anyone to produce your food.
right.
You have to produce it yourself if you want the top quality food.
Mm,
So we are completely self-sufficient. We've been on the farm now for 10 years, and we bought a piece of land which was severely damaged industrially. There was no topsoil here at all. We had to create soil. So we make compost, huge mountains of it. We
Mhm.
get horse manure from local stables for
Yep.
free. Horses produce so much that people
Yeah.
pay so much of this mountain, and they call us and tell us, please take it away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
come and take it away very
Perfect.
happily. And then we put, we have local tree surgeons who cut trees in people's gardens, and they chip a lot of wood. And in
Hmm.
this country, the government charges these companies for disposing wood chip. Such a
Hmm.
valuable resource. It's
Yeah.
absolutely
Right.
amazing, you know. So I just told them, bring it all here.
Yeah.
So so they bring mountains of wood chip for us. And all we do, we just mix the two,
Hmm.
the manure and the wood chip. Wood chip provides carbon. All plant matter provides carbon. The manure provides nitrogen and phosphorus.
Mhm.
These three elements, when you mix them together, magic happens.
Hmm.
It composts, it heats up, the microbial community starts working there very, very actively. And in 8 months to a year, it turns into a beautiful compost.
Hmm.
So we make mountains of compost like that. So in order to make compost, you need some kind of plant matter, grass, straw, wood chip, something, and you need manure. So what happens on pasture when you have huge herds of
Hmm.
animals grazing? They eat the grass under their feet, they trample what they don't eat. And what is grass? Carbon.
Hmm.
They trample it into the soil, that carbon. They return a lot of that carbon digested, mixed with their manure, with the microbial community, with the rich microbial community from their digestive system, and that drops on the ground. They urinate on that as well, which is nitrogen,
Mhm.
rich source of nitrogen and phosphorus. And this magic happens right there in the soil. So every time the herd moves, it leaves a complete devastation, a piece of land that's the grass is trampled, eaten, and everything's covered in their excrements. In 3-4 months, all of that composts and turns into humus.
Mhm.
What is humus? Humus is a carbon polymer. It's the most concentrated form of carbon, one of the most on our planet in nature, and it holds carbon for hundreds of years. So soil is the biggest reservoir of carbon on our
Hmm.
planet.
Hmm.
On top of that, humus is like a sponge. Every time it rains, it absorbs huge amounts of water. Like a sponge, it swells
Mhm.
and it holds it. And the water running off these pastures runs crystal clear because the soil is held by the humus.
Wow.
And every time the animals, by the time in 3-4 months, all that manure goes into the soil, turns into humus, and the grass regrows. So
Mhm.
the animals come back. And every time they circle this way, because nature doesn't build fences.
Right.
Animals move all the time. They eat and they move all the time. And every time they circle over, the soil gets thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker. And over
Mhm.
millions of years, it's these large herds of animals that have created topsoil on our planet. They've captured carbon from the atmosphere and they locked it in the soil in the form of humus. They create these carbon sinks on the planet.
Hmm.
Then comes the humans. Come the humans, and they think, well, I'll make it convenient for me, so I'll build a fence, I'll put the animals in there, I'll lock them up, and forget about them. And so animals haven't got the chance to move
Hmm.
like this. They're sitting in the same plot of land all the time, eating the same, the same pasture. And animals have their own favorite plants, their own chocolate. So when they're locked up like that, they would eat the first most favorite plant until they kill it. Then they start on the next one until they kill it. Then
Right.
on the next one until they kill it. And in a year or so, or even in a few months, depending on how many animals there are there, the pasture is destroyed. The only plants that grow there are poisonous plants and plants that animals don't want to eat.
Hmm.
That's why the mainstream agriculture decided, animals destroy pasture. So we should take them off the pasture, or we should cull them, or we should get rid of them, or lock them up in some prison called CAFO, confined animal factory operation,
Yeah.
and plow the pasture, grow the grain or soy, and then feed that stuff to the animals in the CAFO.
Hmm.
These sort of things make animals sick. Animals are not supposed to live on grain and soya. They're not supposed to eat grain. They can have a little bit of grain like a dessert. But the bulk of their food, chickens, turkeys, pigs, sheep, goats, cows, all of them, the bulk of it, they need to be on pasture. They need to eat grasses and
Mm.
herbs. That's what industrial agriculture does.
Yep.
It's created so many myths and so many lies. That animals destroy pasture, that animals are bad for the environment, that they cause global warming.
Right.
You know? Our
Right.
only chance of reversing global warming, our only chance of restoring our planet back to normal is through lots of animals, much, much more than what we have, but grazing them correctly, moving them all the time,
Mm.
copying what Mother Nature does. And that's what we do on our farm. That's how soil has been created on our planet. When we bought this piece of land, we had no soil on it whatsoever. So our animals and birds have been working hard on
Yeah.
our farm.
Right.
And in 10 years, we've turned this damaged industrial piece of land, it was an industrial wasteland when we
Mm.
bought it, we turned it into a paradise. It's absolutely amazing how resilient nature is, and it works with you, and it works
Mm.
relentlessly to correct the mistakes that we've made, that we human beings made. If we,
Yeah.
instead of making these mistakes, turn around and start assisting Mother Nature and working with her, we can restore this planet in no time at all. 15, 20 years. It will be a Garden of Eden,
Mm.
absolute paradise. And the industrial model of agriculture, that needs to be abandoned. That is an absolute must. We
Mm.
have no choice if we are to save our planet and to save humanity, because we are losing soil. Because what the
Yeah.
arable industrial agriculture does, they dig, they plow, they till, and they pour chemicals onto the soil.
Mm-hmm.
What is soil? Just like in your gut.
Yeah.
It's a rich microbial community. It's that sophisticated city
Right.
with roads and gas supply and electricity supply and water supply and
Right.
transport and everything in there. Every time you stick a spade in it or you plow it or till it, you destroy that city.
Yeah.
You release carbon into the atmosphere, and then you pour chemicals on it. And the major number one chemical that industrial farmers pour on all of their arable fields is nitrogen fertilizers.
Mm-hmm.
More than 60-70%, it's estimated, possibly even 90% of this nitrogen is then released into the atmosphere in the form of methane. It
Yep.
just turns into methane and gets released back into the atmosphere. That's where this methane in the atmosphere comes from, and the carbon in the atmosphere, from
Mm-hmm.
activities of our industrial arable agriculture, growing plants,
Yeah.
growing commodity crops in
Mm-hmm.
rotation. You know, industrial agriculture made this myth, this lie, which propagated amazingly quickly and is being pushed on the whole of humanity, that it's animals that release methane, that they are burping and releasing gas.
Yeah.
That's why we've got methane up in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's a lie. Methane comes from nitrogen fertilizers
Yeah.
that arable industrial agriculture uses. And of course, if the animals are locked up in some CAFO, the excrements from them, instead of being a blessing for the soil, are washed away from a concrete floor in that CAFO into some lagoon. And in that lagoon, it all rots, and of course, it releases all sorts of toxic gases into the
Sure.
atmosphere.
Yeah.
That model of agriculture must be abandoned. If we are to save our planet, we need to go back to natural pasture grazing. All
Yep.
animals should be on pasture. Do you know where the yellow color in your egg yolks come from?
Tell us where.
From
Where.
herbs and grasses that the chickens consume on a daily basis. They consume large amounts of herbs and grasses, and carotenoids in those grasses turn into the yellow, orangey color in your egg yolk,
Mm-hmm.
into vitamin A and other forms of vitamin A. Do you know where the yellow color comes from in a supermarket egg? From
Probably
a
not from that.
synthetic dye that is
Mm.
added into the feed of the chickens. Which one's going to give you good health?
Right.
So chickens need to be on pasture. They need to free range. Our chickens, we have about 250 chickens. We started with 12, but they just breed.
Yep.
Every chicken now, they're all getting broody. They want to have babies. So we help them because we want to give every chicken a chance to be a mama, because that's
Yeah.
what she wants to do. And she
Yeah.
hatches her clutch of chicks, and then she looks after them and brings them up, teaches them how to be a chicken. That's how we
Mm.
finished up with 250 chickens.
That is wild. That is wild.
Absolutely. And they run all over the farm. We do not fence them. We do not fence anything like that. They're on the
Yeah.
local farm, having a busy social life, very happy life. They're
Very
healthy,
fun.
they're happy, they're beautiful. Their bones are like rocks. You
Right.
cannot
Yeah.
break them. You cannot crack
Yeah.
them because they have no osteoporosis.
That's yeah.
They're healthy chickens. And in the modern world, we have electric fences. So it's wonderful for using it for cows and goats and pigs and other
Yeah.
animals because electric fences are very easy to build and very easy to remove. Actually,
Hmm.
an hour and a half, you're done.
Yeah.
And so you can move the animals very often, as often as you need to.
Yep.
And it's absolutely beautiful. So many people in our modern world listen to the mainstream propaganda, which is created by the industrial complex,
Yeah.
by the corporations, large global corporations. The same people own all the corporations.
Yeah.
Starting from agriculture, then they own
Mhm.
the food industry, then they own pharmaceutical industry, they own medical industry. They own all the industries, and they create the propaganda because media serves them. And there's so
Yeah.
much misinformation in the world. So
Yeah.
much absolutely malicious misinformation about food, about climate change, about agriculture, about all of these things. And one of the biggest things that has been propagated in the world is that we should all become vegetarian and vegan.
Yeah.
Why? Because I've learned this with my farm. My farm teaches me lessons every single day. And the
Yeah.
animals teach you, the birds teach you, the soil teaches you, you learn.
Yeah.
The easiest thing on my farm, on an organic regenerative farm, the easiest thing is animals and birds.
Hmm.
You're busy an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening. The rest of the day is free for you.
Hmm.
As long as they're on pasture, as long as they're free ranging, they take care of themselves. They're healthy. They're well. You never need any help. You never need any drugs, vets, anything at
Yeah.
all. They just take care of themselves and they just grow. And you finish up with your problem becomes not the scarcity of food, but how to consume all of it.
That's right.
They produce
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
We're getting 70 eggs a day from our chickens at the
Wow.
moment.
Wow.
And they're the
Wow.
most beautiful eggs, the most
Mm.
amazing, healthy eggs. So, so
Yeah.
that's
It, I'm sorry. I mean, like, I think what is hearing you talk about the farm, I can't help but when you talk about the soil being kind of a wasteland when you bought the place and the slow and steady work you've done to rejuvenate and revitalize the soil, it's such a obvious metaphor for the gut and what you've done, what your work has done for so many people in their own topsoil within them. So yeah, it's fascinating to hear the lessons you're learning from the soil. And it brings me to like another thing you mentioned when you talked about your work in the research that's gone on into the gut biome and all the things that are happening. A lot of the things we're learning about is coming from like basically from our poop, right? There's like not there's not a lot of funding in the actual. So it led me to thinking like if if you had like Elon Musk's bank account and you could invest that money in any kind of research you wanted to about better understanding the gut or the things that are happening inside of us, I'm wondering like where would you invest money to research to learn more?
well, the doctors, gastroenterologists do lots of endoscopies every single day.
Hmm.
I don't know how many endoscopies, probably thousands and thousands, on a global level are done every day. And they're all sent to histology laboratories just to check for cancer or for whatever cells in there.
Hmm.
If they were sent to microbiology laboratories, we would have got so much valuable information about the gut
Right.
microbiome. Because the microbiome, your microbiome, it's the soil inside you. We were talking about the topsoil covering our
Yep.
beautiful planet. Your gut flora is your soil inside you, and it covers every square millimeter, every crevice, every little cave, every little, crypt inside your digestive system, because your digestive system has many folds and
Mm.
villi and protrusions and deep, 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 deep crypts, in different places, and all of it is covered. So that's your real gut flora, not what's floating in the middle, not what
Yep.
comes out of you into the toilet.
Yep.
That's just transit. That what transits through. The
Hmm.
real flora sits on your wall deep in those crypts, and they take the samples of the gut wall of people every day. But
Yeah.
it's the mainstream medicine. it's controlled by the same corporations. It's very difficult to change things in there. If we could
Got
change
it.
that would be wonderful, absolutely
Mhm.
wonderful. But I want to come back to what I was talking about, the farm and the propaganda, the vegetarian propaganda. That's important for people to understand, because so many young people nowadays fall for that propaganda and destroy their lives, destroy their health.
Yep.
So on an organic farm, the easiest thing are animals. The most difficult thing is growing plants. Growing plants is laborious, full-time job, lots of weeds, hard work, growing vegetables, growing greens or whatever you want to grow, plant
Yeah.
food. In an industrial agriculture, these two things swap. Animals just don't comply with the industrial model, because they take them off the land, they lock them in these cafes, feed them grain and soya, animals get sick, they all have arthritis, they all have infertility by the third, fourth year of age, and they all die from cancer. That's why they call them young before they develop cancers and before they get seriously sick, these animals. So it's painful. They have to use antibiotics all the time, expensive steroids, expensive veterinary services. It just doesn't work, industrial model, and it produces disease-causing produce, for us, milk, eggs, meat, whatever. While growing plants on an industrial scale is easy, cheap, and profitable for them, because the scientists have worked it all out decades ago. They hybridize the plants, they coat them with this chemical and that chemical, and then they give you machines and say, you spray this on day 5, you spray that on day 10, you spray that on day 20, and it works.
Yeah.
You get these beautifully looking fields with not a weed inside, which is unbelievable, and the yield of what? Nobody asks. The yield of nutritionally empty produce, but full of chemicals produce. But nobody is asking those questions in the mainstream. So industrial agriculture wants to get rid of animal husbandry. It doesn't work for them, and it's expensive, and it's unprofitable, and it's difficult. That's why they want the whole planet vegan and vegetarian. It's profitable for them, simply from a business point of view. On top of that, the people who are ruling in those circles, they invested billions into synthetic meat, synthetic milk, and synthetic eggs. Synthetic meat is already in supermarkets, synthetic milk also. Synthetic eggs are coming. So real animal husbandry is competition for those products. That is why there is now a concerted effort to destroy animal husbandry around the world. What was happening with Dutch farmers in Holland, what's happening in many other parts of the world, is exactly the concerted effort to do that. And at the same time, this effort went with mainstream propaganda for vegetarianism and veganism, to convince the whole population of humanity to eat plants, to live on plant matter, because plants are profitable for them and easy to produce. And I got interested in this subject because I was getting so many young people with mental illness, anorexia in particular, anxiety, bipolar disorder, depression, who became ill because of vegetarianism and veganism. Before they made that life choice, they were perfectly healthy kids, and they got seriously, seriously ill. So I started researching that subject, and very quickly I've discovered that there is not one scientific study we can trust on this subject. Particularly the China study. That's such a lie sitting on a lion.
I'm not familiar with that one. Could you?
That's right. So having realized that all of these studies were made by pro-vegetarian lobby and they manipulated, I looked at the basic sciences, I looked at the clinical practice, and based on all of that, I've written a book called Vegetarianism Explained, the little green book.
I've got that one here too.
Yeah.
The heart one I couldn't find. It's somewhere in the house, but we've got it. We've got this one too.
Vegetarianism Explained. What I explain to people, that Mother Nature gave us two groups of foods: animal foods, meat, fish, eggs, and dairy, and plant foods. They digest very differently in the human body. The human body handles them very, very differently, these foods. And the solid fact is that human beings can live perfectly well without eating plants at all. We do not need to eat vegetables. We do not need 5 a day. We do not need to eat vegetables at all,
Mm.
plants at all. Because I have a growing population of people now with ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, babies with FPIs, children with learning disabilities, people with
Mm.
severe mental illness, and other, who choose a no plant gaps diet, which I've described in the blue book, where they're eating not a leaf, not a speck from the plant kingdom at all. They live entirely on animal foods. They
Mm.
recover from the most debilitating illnesses. They look healthy. They lead a healthy life. They start working. Many of them actually
Wow.
choose to never eat plants again because it works for them. They feel very, very well.
Mm.
But the opposite of it, we cannot live, human beings cannot live without eating animal foods. Veganism is not a diet, it is a form of fasting.
Mm.
That's what people need to understand. The word diet should not be connected to the word vegan. It's not a diet, it's a fast. Fasting can be very beneficial, very cleansing. It's as old as the hills. It's biblical fasting.
Yeah.
It cleanses your body in a powerful way, and a cleaner body always feels better than a toxic one. That's why so many vegans in the first few weeks of their veganism, they become evangelical about it because they feel better.
All the cleaning up is happening. Is that?
That's right. But at a
Yeah. Got
certain
it.
point, the body will finish cleansing and it will become hungry,
Mm.
and it will ask for animal foods. It will give you desire for a piece of steak, for
Mhm.
roasted chicken, bacon and eggs, cream, cheese, something like that. Unfortunately, many vegans in our world are doing it for religious reasons, political reasons, emotional reasons, other reasons. They don't listen to their body.
Yeah.
Instead of listening to what the body is asking for, they force it to continue cleansing when the body is asking to be fed. And at that point, the body has no choice but to start breaking down muscle and bone to feed vital organs, to feed your brain, your heart, your lungs, your liver, and other vital organs. You
Wow.
start losing muscle mass, you start losing bone mass, and you start losing brain mass. The brain literally shrinks, and we see it on the scans in long-term vegans.
Wow.
So these people lose the mental capacity. They don't even realize what's happening to their bodies. Their learning ability declines, their memory declines, and they become emotionally hangry. There's a new term attached to this situation made out of two words, hungry and angry.
Yep.
A starving
Yeah.
brain makes the person hangry. They
Mm.
become they're aggressive, these people. They evangelical, they're revolutionary, they berate everybody for eating.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, so they become just, very difficult people to live with. And because the brain is starving and it's melting away, it is angry and hungry.
Hmm.
So we have now many recovering vegans in the world who hit rock bottom, became really sick, destroyed their health to a very serious degree, realized their mistakes and started recovering, started eating animal products again. So
Hmm.
please read that book to understand
Yep.
all the ins and outs of um, this life choice, because it can destroy your life.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the flip side of that, I think what's like you talk a lot about just the regenerative potential and ability within our own bodies. And to me, there's so much hope there when you do intervene and can. So, you just talked about veganism and vegetarianism and some of the ways that you've been able to help people rebuild themselves and regenerate their body. So, I don't know, could you talk a little bit just about like the regenerative potential of our bodies and what's actually happening? Because to me, that's such an amazing feature of being a human.
Human body is a miraculous creation.
Yeah.
It's the pinnacle of evolution. It has every healing ability, recovery, restoring ability programmed into it.
Hmm.
If you stop interfering and get out of the way, your body
Hmm.
will restore itself to radiant health, to perfect health.
Yeah.
So all we have to do is assist our body rather than interfering, rather than stopping it. So when you get symptoms, when you get pain, inflammation, limitation of function, something doesn't work quite in your body, that is a signal your body is giving you. You are damaging me.
Yeah.
You are destroying me. How else is your body can tell you that? By giving you unpleasant symptoms. But people go to the mainstream doctor, and the doctor gives them a pill to stop the pain, a pill to stop inflammation, a pill for this and that, and the other.
Yep. Yep.
So by taking those pills, what are you doing? You're telling your body, stop calling for help and
Mm.
suffer in silence. So the disease will continue. These pills will not cure you of anything. They'll just stop the communication between your body and you. So the
Right.
body will continue getting destroyed by your lifestyle, by what you're doing. You are destroying your own body.
Mm.
With you just not being aware of that because you're suppressing symptoms. That is
Yep.
why symptoms should not be suppressed. For some people, that's something they want and they're happy with that. That's their choice. But majority of people want to get to the root cause of what's
Yeah.
happening to them
Yeah.
and want to deal with the root cause, want to get rid of the situation. So if you want to get rid of the situation with any chronic disease, the mainstream doctor is the last person you want to go to. I'm telling you that as a mainstream doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't do that. You need to look, your body is a microbial community, food.
Yeah.
Number one, you change your diet. And GAPS diet is, from my point of view, is the best way to go about it
Yeah.
because it will allow your body to rebalance its microbial community and to rebuild itself out of quality materials. In many
Yeah.
people, their bodies are made out of poor quality materials because they've been eating poor quality food. Your body renews itself all the time. Every cell in your body lives a very short life. It works very hard, it gets old, it gets
Mm.
killed and removed, and new baby cells are born to replace them all the time. Your body gives birth to trillions of new baby cells every single day. Those cells need to be made out of something. Building materials are required. Where do they come from? From your food. If you're eating poor quality building materials, you are building your body out of rubbish,
Right.
out of poor quality materials. How is that
Mm.
body going to serve you well? Is it going to feel good, that body, or serve you
Mm-hmm.
well? Not
Mm-hmm.
at all. As you go on the GAPS diet and you start cooking your own meals and looking for the best ingredients, you start rebuilding your body out of quality materials. Your osteoporosis disappears, your bones fill up and become strong. So when you fall, you don't break your bones, you don't break your legs or arms. Your muscles start recovering, your connective tissue starts recovering, your brain fills up.
Mm.
The shrunken brain of a vegan fills up again, and they become happy again, and
Yeah.
relaxed and content and pleasant people, joyful people. Joy moves into them, and happiness moves into them.
Mm.
All of your organs rebuild themselves. They shed off those sick cells made out of poor quality materials and
Yep.
give birth to trillions of baby cells out of quality materials.
Incredible.
The longest it will take is 7 years because that's how long it takes for your whole skeleton, for all of your bones in the body to completely rebuild themselves
Mm.
from new materials. That's how long. But other organs change very, very rapidly. And gut, the cells that line your digestive system only live 2, 3 days. They have a very short life. So
Mhm.
you can rebuild your gut wall very quickly.
That's good news. There's hope in that, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a very good hope there.
Yeah.
So, majority of people, once they go on the GAPS diet, they learn so much as they
Mhm.
go through that journey. They learn enormous amount. They learn how this world works, how industrial agriculture works, what the
Yep.
real food looks like, how to cook, that the food is information, that you only put love in, the food that carries information of love into yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Because
Mm.
then your body will say, I'm
Yeah.
loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can recover. I can heal myself. I'm not just being used and abused.
Yep.
I'm loved. And you will heal. And living in a healthy body made out of quality materials feels wonderful.
Right.
Feels
Right. Right.
wonderful. You wake up with joy. You wake up smiling every morning. Nothing
Yeah.
hurts.
Right.
Everything works. It's
Right.
it's the same as you have a machine that works and well oiled and works beautifully, and you have
Yep.
a machine that's broken.
Yeah.
Which
Yes.
one is going to bring you more joy
That's right.
and more
That's right.
functionality?
That's right. I know it's not a huge focus of your work, but also in your books you do talk a bit about healing beyond just the food we're putting in our body, that there's a relationship between our mind and our mental attitude and in the healing of our body, the power of belief. You talk a bit about putting your body back in nature, things like forest bathing or putting your feet in the grass. So I'm wondering, like, broadening beyond just the diet, what are other ways in which we could help heal ourselves for people interested in seeking that?
That's a very good question. What majority of people need to understand that we are not our bodies. The body is just a shell you're
Hmm.
wearing for one lifetime. We are divine. We are divine beings. We are spiritual beings. We are spirits. We are eternal spirits. This is, for me, this is not a belief anymore. I just know. There are
Hmm.
things we just know in life. We just know through my clinical experience, through what I've observed, observing people dying, observing people living, recovering. I've
Hmm.
seen so many miracles, which are absolutely beautiful. We are eternal spiritual beings. And we come into this world for a short period of time with a purpose. Every one of us comes with a scenario written down that we have to go through, a certain journey we have to accomplish. And you can't fly to a moon, jump out of spaceship and start running around the moon in your t-shirt and shorts, can you?
Mm-mm.
You need a spacesuit because
Yeah.
your body will not survive in that environment. The same with this material world. As a spirit, you can't come into here and interact with this world without a spacesuit. So you build a spacesuit for yourself. You build a body for yourself. So this body, material body, you make it out of materials of this world, from dust to dust,
Yeah.
and then you go through a hormonal program that the body is created with. From a baby, it grows into a child, and then into a teenager, and then into the age when you procreate and produce your own children. And then once you've done that, you age, the body slowly deteriorates and eventually dies. And you shed it off, you drop it like a ton of bricks, leave it in this world, and you go back home
Mm-hmm.
where you came from. So that's what life is. So birth and death are two things which are just two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
They're both beautiful, and they
Mm-hmm.
both should be done consciously, and they both should be done fully engaged
Yep.
for the spirits. So if you start living your life from that point of view, that you're not just a physical machine, some body, you're not an animal either. Animals are also spiritual, but they are different to us.
Yeah.
We are different from animals. You're not an animal either. You're a spirit. You're a god. And everything comes from spirit. Your brain is a computer that receives information from the spirit.
Mm.
And then you were given a tool called the mind. And the tool, the mind uses the brain as a computer, for various functions.
Mm.
So the mind is a tool, and it's a very powerful tool, and it's been given to us to create, because we are supposed to be creators. We come to this world, we are creators, whether we like it or not, whether we know about it or not, whether we are aware of it or not. We create every second of your existence. You create, create, create.
Mm.
So understanding that fact, you understand that I might as well create consciously
Mm-hmm.
rather than create unconsciously. People wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I watched the news on the last night, and this is bad, and that is bad, and
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen, and blah, 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 blah." You've programmed your day.
Yeah.
You have created your day with
Mm-hmm.
these negative thoughts. So you will go through all those negative things that you've just programmed for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But because you've done it unconsciously, you did not realize that you're programming.
Yeah.
People program their lives that way, their whole lives. And then they go through all this suffering and all this pain and all this trouble, which they've programmed for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they start looking for somebody else to blame for all of that happening to them. You've
Right.
programmed it. You create your own life. So if you understand that, then you take the grips, you hold your mind in tight control, because the mind is a powerful tool. And if you act like a monkey with a machine gun,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to cause a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what's happening. People who create unconsciously, they use their mind like a monkey with a machine gun. They don't know how to use their mind, and they use it for destruction. They use it for causing diseases for themselves,
Yep.
causing trouble for themselves, and for the whole world, for
Yeah.
everybody around. So
Mm.
all of us need to understand that mind is a tool which we need to learn how to use it.
Yep.
We need to use it consciously, not
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously, not
Mm-hmm.
half asleep. And that we are powerful spiritual beings.
Mm.
If you live your life that way, if you work on yourself, if you create self-discipline for yourself, there are many wonderful methods of disciplining your mind and disciplining yourself. and making yourself a conscious being and living your life in a conscious way. There are so many wonderful books and courses and teachers out
Mm-hmm.
there. We have plenty of information. So if you really want to do that, you can find the right teacher and the right information.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and then in like the relationship with nature as well, right? Like mind being both brain and body, and but also the role of being in the world and being with nature. There's been like positive effects empirically studied of that sort of stuff as well, right?
Absolutely. The truth exists only in nature.
Hmm.
There is no truth in humanity. I know it's a
Right.
bold statement
Yeah.
to make.
Hmm.
We live in a technocratic society
Right.
that is deeply lost, completely and utterly lost. The scientists in this society really believe that humans are machines, that there is no spiritual aspect to us. They kind of understand that there is a mind there, that which we don't quite understand and how it works,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what you do there, that there is some kind of mind, yeah. But they actively, aggressively deny the vital force and deny the divinity in all living things on our planet.
Mm.
We have two forms of sciences, and people get confused in a technocratic society. We have technologies, things made out of metals, plastic, dead things,
Yeah.
machines, tractors, trains, computers, mobile phones, all those sort of things, right? And the sciences achieved huge heights in that. They made our lives very comfortable, absolutely wonderful, amazing. That kind of part of it is amazing and it's wonderful to use.
Mm.
But then they look at the living things in the world, starting from microbes and plants and insects and animals and birds and humans, and they apply the same rules as they use for things made out of metal or plastic. They apply them to these living things.
Right.
And they truly, there is an absolute propaganda and ideology in mainstream sciences. You are not allowed to even entertain an idea that there is any divinity in life. You must apply the same laws that you use for plastic and metal and machines to
Mm.
living things.
Mm.
And as long as our science continues doing that, it will always be lame, it will always be one-legged. It will
Mm-hmm.
never get to the truth. Because life is divine.
Mm.
There is God, there is divinity, there is a creator behind everything living and breathing in this world, and thinking and creating in this world.
Mm.
That is so obvious to any person who is not a scientist.
Right.
So we have to understand that. So if you want to lose your way in life, follow the science. you know that's
Yeah.
what that is why I tell everybody, be careful with sciences. They do
Mm-hmm.
not have the truth. There is no truth in humanity, because current humanity is technocratic. They believe with their machines. We're now
Mm-hmm.
even they even now coming up with technology of implanting some things into our brains to turn us into robots, to treat us like machines,
Mm-hmm.
basically, because
Yeah.
there's some other agenda there which we won't go into.
That's a different podcast, I
That's
think.
a different
Yeah.
different aspect of it all. So,
That's right.
we
Yeah.
are divine beings. Nature is love,
Mm.
is solidified love. The plants, the trees, the forest, the pasture, the animals, the birds.
Yeah.
The closer you are to it, the more time you spend with it, the more truth you hold in you, the
Mm.
more you understand how this world works, the deeper you are connected to yourself, to your divinity, to your spiritual self, to the real you, the deeper
Mm-hmm.
you're connected. And the information you get from nature comes without words, without books. It comes on some other level, on some visceral level. You just know things.
Yeah.
The more time you spend in nature. And because
Mm.
nature is love, everything is just have a look at the leaf, any leaf. Have a look at the whisker on a cow, on a cat,
Mm.
sorry, or
Mm-hmm.
or a cow. Yeah,
Yeah.
have a look at the scale on a fish, the perfection of it all, how
Right.
beautiful it all is, how functional it all is, how well it all works. And the more we study it with microscope, going deeper, 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 the more we amazed and marveled at how sophisticated and
Yeah.
complex all of it is. and how infinitely functional, how it all works and
Mhm.
connects with each other and harmonious. Nature works on harmony, on balance, not on survival of the fittest. That's a technocratic, limited, one-legged idea.
Mhm.
Nature works on harmony, on balance. Everything feeds into everything. Everything supports everything. Everything kills everything and feeds on it. And that's how the whole circle of life works on the planet, and it's beautiful. All of it is beautiful and perfect. It's an absolute perfection. That is why many of my patients who recovered finish up getting out of the cities, buying a plot of land, no matter how
Mhm.
small, it doesn't matter, have some chickens, have a garden, maybe have a pig, maybe have a goat. Some
Yeah.
even have a house cow. And many people work on computers nowadays. So you make your income on a computer and you
Yep.
do your job on a computer, but then you come out and all your stress immediately goes,
Yeah.
it
Yes.
all washes off you immediately. You are filled with joy. You're filled
Mhm.
with happiness. You're filled with love. And
Yeah.
you just, and being in that state is healing and healthy.
I think it's a really great place to maybe end our conversation for today. I want to ask a couple like quick questions, but like a couple things I've just taken away from our conversation. Like, yes, there can be too much science. You can have too much science. Balance is essential. The whole idea of harmony and that being really important. It seems like a lot of like taking things back into our own power, thinking for ourselves, healing ourselves. It struck me that like the world is in need of a lot of healing, and maybe it's possible, maybe that like the biggest global changes actually begin within us, like in the tiniest ways, just what we eat and how we treat ourselves. I've loved our conversation so far. I wanted to ask you a couple of quick kind of final questions that are more rapid fire. The first one I asked all of my guests so far is like, do you have a tip or a recommendation for people who are looking to change their lifestyle? But is there a book they should read or a course they should try or a thing that they should do? How do you start making change?
Read my books.
Read your books.
Yes, that's
That's
right.
good. Yes, do the protocol. Yeah. Okay.
That's a good start.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good place to start. There's
Yep.
one more book that is important for many people because many people are concerned about heart disease. This
Yep.
one is called Put Your Heart in Your Mouth. It's translated into many languages. All of my books are translated into many languages. So that one
Great.
will explain to you that cholesterol and fats do not cause heart disease.
Yeah.
And they do not cause any disease. Not only that, they reverse diseases and they heal.
Yes, the opposite. Everything. It's the
The opposite.
yeah, upside
Because
down.
we live in a technocratic society, and it's been said many times, starting from the Bible and from even more ancient texts,
Hmm.
that this is a mirror world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
In order to know the
Yeah.
truth, you have to turn everything upside down,
Right.
and then you will see the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's right. So everything you hear in the mainstream, you have to take with a huge pinch of salt, turn
Yeah.
it upside down,
Yeah.
and then you will see the truth.
That makes a little more sense, right? Yeah. I'm wondering, so you've done, maybe you're not chewing on any ideas. You've thought about enough stuff over the course of your life, but I'm wondering, is there anything on the edge of your thinking where are there big ideas that you're chewing on right now or things you're excited that you're thinking about or working on?
I'm reading a book about the farm, about the
Hmm.
farming. Because,
Yeah.
when we started, we were people from a city. We didn't know the first thing.
Right.
You
Right.
learn. You learn and learn every day, and the animals teach you all the time, and the birds teach you all the time, and the soil teaches you, and the plants teach you, and the sun teaches you, and the moon, and the
Right.
rain teaches you all the time. So everything we've learned. So I'm writing a book for people like we were, for people who live in the city, who don't have
Hmm.
any knowledge, who are not farmers, how to
People like
start.
me. Yeah. Great. Okay.
Right.
Well, we'll
How
add
to
it to the
start,
bookshelf.
how to
Yeah.
go about it, and how to be successful. Because I say now our problem on our farm is how to consume everything the farmer
Right.
gives us.
Right. Right. Good
We
problem
don't
to have.
come from any scarcity or anything like that. And
Right.
we have volunteers on our farm. We have hundreds of them,
Yep.
young people from all over the world. They come to learn organic farming. We teach them everything we do here. And many of them leave so enthusiastic, so encouraged about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's the people I'm writing the book for. because the more
Excellent.
little farms we have on our planet, because
Hmm.
our 28 acres, it's only a small 28 acres, we're a carbon sink. We're
Right,
reducing
right,
global warming
right,
on my
right.
little farm. And the more little farms like that we have scattered all over the planet, the more hope our planet has,
Sure.
the more love it will receive, the more it will
Mm,
heal. So no scale is too small.
right.
You can just have a back garden where you create a vegetable garden and have a few chickens, and you're
Mm.
already reducing global warming.
I love that. I love that idea. My last, besides asking where people can find you, my last question I ask everyone, this show's called Other Minding. The whole idea is about me learning in public, getting inside the mind of another person who I'd love to learn from. So I would, if the tables were turned, Dr. Natasha, and it was like you could have a chance to learn from any one person, have a conversation with them. Whose mind would you like to get inside the most?
There's lots of lovely people in the world. Joel Salatin is one of the wonderful people.
Yep. Okay.
You probably heard of him. He's an American farmer
Hmm.
who runs courses on organic farming, on natural farming, and he's amazing,
Okay.
simply amazing. Yes. So
Excellent.
Alan Savory is an amazing gentleman who has
Don't know
studied
him.
how the grazing works and how these huge herds of animals in nature build topsoil, create
Mm,
humus by grazing and interacting with the grasslands. And
mm,
an important part of it are predators, absolutely vital part. Lions,
interesting.
hyenas, wolves, cheetahs, all of those predators, they're part and parcel, they always come together. They're part of the grassland ecosystem. They must be there.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
on the farms, of course, we can't have predators.
Mm,
So we use electric fences and we move animals very often to copy
yep.
what these predators do, because in nature they are the shepherds.
Hmm.
They
Got it.
make sure that the herds are grazing correctly,
Hmm.
that they do not pick and choose their chocolate. They eat
Hmm.
everything and mow everything under their feet, and they
Yep.
urinate and defecate and fertilize and move.
Yeah.
So then,
Excellent.
the soil recovers and it builds itself. So Alan Savory Institute, he has
Alan
set up
Fabry.
this gentleman. He's in his 80s now, God bless him, and he's still very active and working. So please join the Alan Savory Institute. You will learn everything you need to know about grassland economy, how to restore our land, how to restore our planet, how to create topsoil. You
Excellent.
know, what we can derive from their research. Number one thing, that far from becoming vegan and vegetarians, we should eat more meat, all of us.
Hmm.
More meat,
Okay.
more
For
eggs,
me.
more milk, more animal products. But
Yep.
we need to graze these animals correctly.
Hmm.
We
Mm,
need to replicate what Mother Nature does. We need to
mm.
observe Mother Nature and do what she does, because she knows what she's doing. There is no truth in humanity. Truth is in nature.
In nature. So where can people find you if they want to learn more about
I have
you?
my website, which is called gaps.me,
Yep.
which is gaps.me. Yeah, me. There you will find links to gapstraining.com. That's a platform where we do training courses for people, all
Mm,
sorts of wonderful training courses. So whatever problem you have, whatever health issue you may have, or maybe you would like to become a practitioner or a coach, um, you know, there is a course for you there. We will help.
excellent.
If you have fussy children who don't eat anything and
Hmm.
difficult to feed, we have a fantastic course there which will turn your life around and turn your children around. You will be taken
Great.
by the hand by very highly professional people, very experienced people in these situations. We'll have a course for babies, how to bring up healthy babies, how to feed
Hmm.
them, how to look after them, all sorts of courses. So please have a look at gapstraining.com. We have a
Excellent.
Gap Science Foundation where we're doing now a peer-reviewed journaled research. We're publishing research that GAPS works, because
Oh, I
so
love
many
that.
people who are scientifically minded in the world say, where are the papers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's the evidence?
Yeah.
So we are now working on that evidence. I have a team of researchers who are working on studies,
Oh,
and we're
that's
publishing
exciting.
them.
That's very exciting. Oh, great to hear. Well, I've had a tremendous time getting to be with you and learn from you, and I appreciate so much the work that you've done over the course of your life, and life that the work that you're still doing. Like I said at the beginning, this has been life changing for our family as well as lots of other people. So thank you so much for your time, Dr. Natasha. I'd love to maybe close this now, but also I know Chrissy just got home and she might want to say hi to you, my wife, if you wouldn't mind saying. Yeah. Thank you.